Welcome to the Market Rundown. I'm Matt Bennett, grain marketing consultant with the channel. And I'm here to talk about the October WASDE report from the USDA, where they come in here and basically update production, supply and demand, you name it, a little bit everything in this report. And so I want to talk about my biggest breakdown, I guess, my biggest bullet points, if you will. And so essentially, we're going to talk corn, first of all, talk about what they did with production and carry out. I do think that interesting way that they kind of came up with a final number. But as far as soybeans were concerned, it's a very similar type situation in that production was maybe cut just a little bit, carry out, was left the same, which I think was the only choice they had to make. And then third of all, I want to talk briefly about what I think this might mean for market direction, especially as we're right here in the thick of harvest. So first of all, with corn, we actually had a 172.5 last month, came in this month with a 171.9 in the October report. As far as yield was concerned, I kind of felt like the yield would stay within a bushel of that 172.5 in September, one way or the other. And so they didn't really disappoint whenever it came to that. But one thing that they did was they made adjustments as far as exports and whatnot. And so feed usage was actually raised by 50 million bushels. Ethanol went down by 50 million bushels as far as the demand front was concerned. Then whenever you look at exports at 125 lower, what you did was you basically took demand down overall, but kind of needed to do that after the September quarterly stocks report lowered last year's carry out, which lowered this year's carry in. So not only did you start with less stocks for this year, but you just lowered the yield. And so essentially you really needed quite frankly, to lower demand to be able to keep your carry out, in a position that, in a position that it wasn't going to get uncomfortably tight. And so, with a carry out sub 1.2 still, you're looking at a very tight situation moving forward. And now that the yield has gone down 2 months in a row, pretty decent likelihood based on historicals that yield will go even lower yet. Soybean yield went lower as well. So, you took the soybean yield from 50.5 down, 0.7 bushels to a 49.8. So you're below 50. It's not something that anyone necessarily expected maybe 2 months ago, especially with a wetter than average August for a lot of the Corn Belt. Yes, the Western Corn Belt has been dry at times, but most felt like this was a conducive August to really good bean yields. And so, what you did on beans essentially is you didn't really change a whole lot whenever it comes to carry out. And so last at the quarterly stocks report, we actually increased stocks up to 274 million bushels for last year's carry out, increased this year's carry in. But whenever you come in here this month and you lower yield again, we're right back here at this 200 million bushel carryout. So 200 million bushel carryout is extremely tight. It's essentially a pipeline stocks type situation. So with soybeans, it's a very tight situation as well. And historically, we would suggest that you might see bean yield slip a little more into that January report when we get the final yield. So what does this all mean as far as prices are concerned? I think you're looking at a supportive situation, but at the same time, we were coming into the report with kind of a supportive tone to the market. The thing is we got to understand there's more going on here than just supply and demand fundamentals. Whenever it comes to corn and soybeans, we've got to think about our global situations, our macro situations, where there's a lot of talk about not only some sort of recession situation in the US, but a global type recession. And so at really good prices already, pushing $7 on corn and $13.50 on soybeans, producers need to understand that these price levels are extremely profitable still, especially if you have an APH or better crop. So again, the three takeaways for me are that the corn report had a lot to offer, a lot of information. I don't know that it was bullish or bearish, just a lot of information. As far as soybeans were concerned, a lot of information as well. Both corn and beans are in a tight situation. And moving forward, we're looking at supportive price levels, in my opinion, but at the same time, producers need to understand what these prices mean for their farm. So once again, this has been Matt Bennett, grain marketing consultant with Channel with the Market Rundown. If you have any questions, feel free to post them at the bottom of the video or make sure to respond to the newsletter. If you don't already subscribe, you can find it on the channel website and sign up there. Thank you.